Thanks for joining me, guys. I'm so excited to have you here, so I just want to jump straight into it. It's a big question when you are looking at the ecosystems that you are all a part of. Do you think your behavior as a leader actually shapes new norms that can change your industry as a whole?
If you demonstrate the same behavior at critical junctures. Through most of the time, it doesn't really matter, but if at a critical juncture of the highest visibility or highest emotional conflict, you exhibit the same behavior again and again, it might leave some imprint.
What are critical junctures that you're thinking of?
A conflict situation arises. A misunderstanding between different parts of the ecosystem arises. High visibility moment arrives. That's the opportunity usually to change the direction or to change the perception of how things should be done. Day-to-day usually doesn't get noticed.
I think also consistency is key, right? It's like, what is your pattern behavior throughout all these situations, be it critical or not? And then, of course, when it's critical, then your behavior gets amplified, maybe. Like what you're doing gets amplified, and that's where the impact's a bit shorter. But consistency is key as well. So the short answer is yes, I think.
I know you've built your business and your startup because there were norms with the service industry and the SME world that you were not happy with.
Yeah.
Talk us through some of the norms that you were seeing and that you're working on.
SMEs, especially most businesses, they started with the boss being the boss and the serviceman, right? So our job is to free them up. We execute the day-to-day, the admin stuff in the back office, and they get to grow the business. And as I'm part of all these SME societies, it's not that they don't want to use this tool, this AI tool, is they just don't understand it. It's our job to educate them. So I joined Anna's My Brilliant Self community to start creating content, more educational content, more, like talking about this technology. So my goal is really to equip everyone with this knowledge. Then they can make an informed decision.
Anna, what are some of the norms that you've been breaking, either through My Brilliant Self or your other ventures? You sit on many different boards as well.
I think for me, what's important is, I focus my venture is in women's health. We deal with conversations that are very taboo, historically very taboo: fertility, menopause, men's health, sperm health, right? I believe that, if you have visibility or influence as a leader, you will be watched, and somehow people will put this implied responsibility on you to lead the industry.
Yes.
Whether or not you want it, right? And so as a leader, you have the responsibility to put yourself to the highest standards, whether it's ethically, morally, or even the right thing to do for the industry. So I think it's very important to conduct yourself, your business, to the highest level of responsibility so that everyone else can follow and the industry can grow.
Really interested in this concept of responsibility because you wear so many different hats. Like, you have such a storied career, and there are going to be a bunch of people who are looking up to your career. And when you think about that responsibility, what is it really? Is it the responsibility to do good or to leave a good legacy?
First, I don't think I want anybody to put me on a pedestal. To me, we are all founders, and as founders, what we want to do is, I believe I can speak for everyone here, is to be a good person, to build the right business, and to leave an impact to the world.
Yeah.
So I think we agree, right? I guess when you're younger, you chase after achievements, you chase after, metrics, you chase after things like revenues, whatever, right? But as we get older, you want to leave the world a better place. You want to leave impact, and mostly positive impact, and to really think, what is it that you want to be remembered for? And for me, what is important is whatever industries that we are in, whether AI or Founders Forum or yourself as an investor, is to really look at the industry, ask yourself what is lacking, what can I improve in it, and ultimately, how can I leave it a better ecosystem?
I like that you look at him because I was going to ask, right? As a deployer of capital, and you've been working within the Southeast Asia region for all these years now. You've seen the rise and the falls of startup. I want to know, what is an actual example of a business in Southeast Asia that you have seen actually change this ecosystem that they're a part of?
In each country, there was a hero company, even two sometimes. Vietnam, since early days, been shaped by Vina Game. In the Philippines, you had your Gcash graduates, and even before them, the gaming companies like Level Up. In Indonesia, the ecosystem's been shaped by alumni of Gojek, and so on and so forth. And when I try to find what unites them all, it's the strength of alumni networks. Even if the company itself may or may not have succeeded, may or may not have achieved what it set out to achieve, if the culture was strong enough, and I'm not necessarily saying these were necessarily good cultures, but they were strong cultures. The culture was strong enough, it perpetuated certain templates of behavior way beyond the original corporate shell. And so many micro Gojeks are still visible in Indonesian ecosystem, and many micro Vina games are still roaming the space in Vietnam. So I would say probably there is always a motherlode company in each country. I cannot skip the importance, the cultural impact of Rocket Internet and all of its many tendrils, and the impact it left on Southeast Asia as a whole. And it's already been 10 years and it's still felt.
So with the concept of hero companies, right, there is always a model founder, or there's always like a model entrepreneur that people look up to. So how do you balance that idea of being influenced by someone else versus who you are as your own founder, as your own leader and your own operator?
I think I'd like to take a stab on this question. So following what Dimitri said about Rocket Internet, right? So people have certain personality when they go for ruthless execution. And what I learned from that is that sometimes when you execute, when you're just in that mode, you just want to get it done. You want to make the extra dollar. Nowadays, I still have that execution mindset, but I learned to pause before that to see that, okay, does this actually benefiting us? Does this automating the whole customer journey, does that actually help our clients to win the client over, right? So these are the things that we're constantly thinking about, the human aspect of our society. And there's truth, there are playbooks that they've done that we still carry nowadays, but at the same time, we live in a decade after. So we need to see what's happening right now in the society. Yeah.
I still think it's a big thing on the why. Like, why are we doing what we do? And as founders, when you start your own fund or company, or you're running this initiative, it's all about like, what is the impact that you want it to make? It's so easy to just get everything blurred when you're chasing revenue or chasing like market norms and all that. But I found the anchor to be really grounding when I ask myself, go back to the main question of why am I even doing this? Right? Why did I take up this certain role as well? Just that has been the main motivating factor for me, which sometimes doesn't always pay the bills. So I need to find other ways to fund these projects. But I think the why will get me a lot further.
I think you've taken the concept of influence in a very particular direction as well, right? You have these networks, which I think are such a good initiative, whereby you're not just heroing that one founder, you're actually actively pairing people up with different avenues of stewardship, different avenues of mentorship. Tell us about how, what you were thinking through.
Yeah, I love the networks because I started it with a friend, Heng Shen, who also works with Anna to run other networks too. When I was working with Hustle Fund and I was going between SF and Singapore a lot, I actually picked up a lot of practices from how communities are being run in SF. And they do walk and talks a lot. That's how I've also felt a lot of my connections and friendships deepen. And I have made some really good interactions with work friends that eventually became life friends as well, just through a very casual activity. So Heng Shen and I piloted the idea of going on a network, and we were pleasantly surprised that it kept growing, and now we run it bi-monthly, and our latest walk is actually at the end of March, and we have got good number of sign-ups. We're like, oh, there is something here. But yeah, the idea is just to get people to come in, come as they are and just chat. There's no pressure to exchange a name card or to exchange the deal. It's just who are you and why are you doing what you're doing. We also like to share, give some thought-provoking questions before they start the walk. So in case they're a little bit introverted, here are some guiding questions for you.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the part where we talk about leadership, right? I think in the past, the model of leadership, like you mentioned, is, very male-dominated, is very alpha male energy, growth at all costs. But I think that now we are more open. And there are different models such as empathy, being understanding that people have lives outside work, right? So I think we are more accepting of different models of leadership, and there's no one size fits all. It's very interesting. I've been thinking about this because we are also venture backed, right? But for what I do, where we are in women's healthcare, actually growth at all costs doesn't work. We cannot apply the model to us because what matters to us is really taking care of our clients, because we are affecting their health, their futures, their livelihood, right? So I cannot say that just because I want to make money, I will give you the wrong advice just to make that extra dollar. Because what will help us in the future and in the long term is really having that high trust, having that recommendations, because most of our clients, 70% are really from other people's recommendations.
So I love that Anna brought up this idea of empathy and kindness, because in our earlier episode, that's something that we're talking about as a very specific thing that occurs in startups and businesses in Southeast Asia. And I know all of you work with global stakeholders and also, global partners. So I want to know how you communicate that cultural nuance and the differences in our region to your global stakeholders or people that you work with that are not from here.
For this, I actually have quite a strong opinion on empathy. So I helped in my last job. So it's a platform for home services. We have over thousands of staff, most of them from Myanmar. The way that really worked for us, it's not empathy first, is that you set the rule first and empathy comes much later. And managing white-collar worker, now after that, I have a different perspective now. I think empathy should be given, that all of us have some sort of how nice we are, how kind we are to each other. But at the same time, rules are rules. We got to follow these rules. If you want to build something, if you want to create certain kind of influence, you really have to work hard. There's no shortcut. You can't bargain with your investor. Hey, this month I'm going to, relax. That doesn't work, right? Yeah.
Dimitri, how do you communicate or manage cultural nuances when you're working with global capital?
Patiently and systematically. Let me break this answer down into two. Patiently, because what we do in VC world usually takes 10 to 12 years between me selling somebody the story and me proving to them that I was actually not wrong. So you have to re-educate your overseas stakeholders twice or thrice over the cycle of what you're trying to deliver for them. So just be prepared for patience. Systematically is the more important part. I came to realization that what we are trying to convey is not the existence of cultural differences. And it's not even about demographic or economic differences. And what we are arguing to the world, slowly and patiently over the course of decades, is that there is something called emerging markets or growth markets we see. Which is not about ruthless execution. It's not about growth at all costs. It's all about respect for local nuance.
People still want unicorns.
Even now. And some of them even use the word unironically.
So in everything I do, there's a framework. And regardless what is the culture, we always tell people, especially women, right? Be kind, be nice. Actually, to me, be kind and being nice is doing the right thing and communicating it very clearly. So if, for example, if you have to let people go, regardless which culture it is, you have a certain way to do it and you have to do it swiftly and kindly. I think the other thing I learned after being an entrepreneur for 11 years is to really focus on making sure that you're very clear about your values and standing up for yourself. When most of us are younger, we tend to want to impress people, impress our investors, right, or our partners, and we say, okay, if you want this, I will do this. But now I think it's very important to stand up to what you believe, to do the right thing for your business. And in fact, I'm sorry, Dimitri, but I think that, the concept of having VCs on our cap table has really diminished for most founders.
Pretty terrible.
Right? As in, because I said it?
No. We are the necessary evil, but it is evil.
Yes, and to me, venture capital is the most expensive capital there is, right? You are taking part of my companies, and I'm not even sure sometimes the effort that you will to make me a success, right? So to me, there are other capitals. And I think for most women, we always say 2% of venture capital goes to women, right? But 50% of businesses are started by women. So what do most women do? We bootstrap ourselves. We try to make a profitable business, even if it's a lifestyle business. So I think my point is there is a shift in Asia in the way we see capital, how it's deployed, what it means to me and what kind of businesses we want to build.
So in Southeast Asia, I think, here we talk about precedent setting, we talk about influence, we talk about models. The truth is, I think you are rarely just purely building a company or a business, but you're also building the space around it too, right? So when we look at the bigger picture, what are some ecosystem gaps that you have experienced that no single company can solve?
In women's healthcare, I don't believe myself, my company, and even any startups can solve the problem ourselves because it's a very big societal problem. In fact, I think it's a national problem that government should solve, right? So there are many stakeholders here. There is the government, policymakers, institutions, insurers, corporates, and a whole ecosystem that should come together. So I don't think that one startup can solve that.
I agree. I think that's my biggest why in the ecosystems that I build and create. We can't go far if we're just like on our own. And the whole idea of like tech and investments in this VC space is we need to help each other out. And hence that's why I believe so much in cross-pollinating of networks and resources and even capital. Yeah, if you want to go far, you just have to go together. But I've seen it work and I've seen it work for myself.
I think a lot of this is by design, like the idea of collaboration. So in your own personal opinions, have you guys seen really cool example of when there's this one collaborative effort within the industry, like so people, founders coming together to solve a bigger systemic challenge?
Collaboration and competition to me is one and the same. I love competition. I'm a very competitive person. I'm a sports person, right? And I always tell people, when there is no competition, you can be the biggest in a zero market, and that means nothing. When there are competition, you are actually, there is a market and you can race to be the first, to be number one. And that's a big market. Yeah. So to me, whether you collaborate with your ecosystem partners, your competitors, your industry partners or other fellow founders, it's very important to grow the ecosystem.
I think over the past few years, I've seen a lot of ground-up ecosystem builders just coming together, hang out, all with the idea of just fostering closer connections with each other. And then over time, there's a lot more like government agencies coming in to partner up with these ground-up initiatives to really like champion the Singapore voice, but also just improving the ecosystem together. And now I feel like I have seen these two groups come together to create more interesting, larger scale events or conferences. I thought that's been great, where you can meet policymakers in the room and actually change things.
My experience, we haven't really seen an industry, but after COVID, my ex dumped me. I was very lonely, so I wanted to find a group. I just need friends.
Yeah.
So I went to the Berkeley Club.
Oh, nice.
Which was I went to UC Berkeley, and people were just so friendly. They never asked me what do I do, exchange business cards, and I just naturally had fun with this group of people. And slowly, I took over the leadership role, and we started having 8 events a month. And they were like wine, cheese, running club, nature club. We have professors from NUS who's Berkeley alumni would take us to a trail, tell us that this plant, you can eat it. It's so fun. And you get to learn the culture. And the ex-Asia Civilization Museum director was also Berkeley alum. So we get to learn about arts, politics, trading. It was so fun. And I think Singapore is vibrant from the ground up because there are communities like that happens. There's also Columbia Club,
Yeah.
It's a very good place.
I think what I'm hearing like that is central to the ecosystem is having people as part of the community.
Yeah.
But community on its own it doesn't just exist, right? You need the people who are actively like participating in it. Dimitri, I know you're ready to jump at this question.
He's so busy. He has no
Yeah.
community.
In my life. But there were 2 questions there. How
Collaborative
does one
effort.
fill the gaps, or is it now a collaborative effort?
Tell me about collaborative efforts.
Well, one thing that I've observed that emerged, I think it was actually after COVID, there is a networks of communities under the general brand of Unicroach. And yes, it is as terrible as it sounds. It's a unicorn cockroach. The reference is made to cockroaches being able, I apologize for bringing this up over dinner,
Unicroach.
cockroaches being able to survive everything up to and including nuclear war. So this is the community of entrepreneurs who feel that it's not about growth at all costs, it's about survival at all costs. And that cultural trait, cultural vibe seems to have brought a lot of disparate people together. And these are some of the more vibrant Telegram and WhatsApp groups I see in my list, still going on strong for years later.
Amazing.
And yes, now they have obviously the little golf coach for people who like golf, and something about paddle, whatever paddle is, and something about cinemas and whatnot. So it became one of those more vibrant trans-Southeast Asian communities that I kind of am a bit terrified of, but I'm quite fond of as well.
How do you join one?
I'll send you the invitation.
Please, I want, yes.
That's the next time we'll all meet.
Gladly. Yeah, that's about the most colorful example I can come up with at the
I
moment.
like that very much. I'm quite intrigued with this whole like collaboration versus competition, or like collaboration is competition. They exist in the same plane. You had such a good response around what do you decide is competition, right? Like how do you decide who to work with, when to partner up with someone versus when your idea is your own thing. So what do you decide what's worth building alone versus building together?
It's almost never worth building alone. Building something requires team effort, and you can do wonders. Obviously, building with a bad partner is worse than building alone. Okay, that's the only case that you should be building alone. But in my opinion, you should always find partners to grow. So that's why whenever I'm constantly out looking for partners, how we can collaborate. And similarly to Anna's case, the problem that we're solving in B2C service business, it's a big industry. The SME market is almost 50% of our GDP, and we're trying to upgrade this almost 50% of economy, right? How can I do it alone? I can't.
Yeah. So how do you start even looking for resources that are shared or people that you can work together with?
Oh, cry out loud on LinkedIn.
And that's worked.
Yeah, that worked very, very well. Thanks to Anna's community. I start talking about our problems publicly. For example, when we were working with GPT-3, the biggest problem was hallucination. Yep. So I went to AI Singapore. I was like, this is our product, our AI hallucinates. Someone in the engineering team would say, oh, I have this idea, I can solve this. I was like, no, you can. He's like, try me. And that's how I get a lot of people solve our problem.
So you put out a problem and you invite input.
Yeah.
And what if you don't like what you're hearing?
Sure, then you move on.
Chloe, do you find that that is sort of chemistry or that sort of the same type of interpersonal relationships when you work with different founders across Asia?
In putting the word out and then trying to invite input. Oh yeah, 100%. I think that's why these communities should exist. Yeah. If not, what are you trying to do? Just compare notes and move on with your own like race to 100%.
Yeah, especially Gen AI.
Yeah.
It changes every single week. If I build alone, I'm almost building in silos. When I'm using GPT 5.3, people are already experimenting with Opus, 5 point something, maybe next week, right? If I don't learn from them, how do I know I need to switch my model? Or how do I know I need to change all my data pipeline? These kind of things I need to learn from other people.
Yeah, it's also a good like perspective shift, right? Because sometimes you're so close to the problem where you just can't like look for alternative creative solutions. That's where like putting things out there, be it in person or online, really helps.
So thing is, we don't really talk about what happens after you've built all of these things, after you set up your foundations, after everything that you've done is live.
Too soon?
Foundation is never ready.
Foundation is never ready.
Yeah, it's always setting up foundation.
No, it's true, right? Foundations, and then you iterate from that.
Yeah.
What I'm really curious to know is who gets to inherit the systems that you've built, and who gets to benefit from there? How do you think about the future that you're leaving behind just within the context of your company and within the context of the people that you're working with?
I think community is always brandished around recently. It's very popular, right? But if you ask yourself, what is a community? If you have followers and people like your content, they interact with your content, they share, you are a content creator. You're not a community leader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think what is important when I build community is when the community members actually interact with themselves and they build something greater than what you envision. Yeah. So for example, for my Brilliant Self, I can tell you the members meet each other more than I ever meet anyone there. Whether it's a company, whether it's your legacy, whether it's community, I think it's very important to think about how it can last beyond your influence and how people can build it greater to what you have ever imagined it to be.
Yeah. Dimitri, what do you think your identity and value is beyond a blank check?
It's not blank. They come with a lot of conditions.
First of all, yes, there is conditions precedent and conditions subsequent. Secondly, my identity, while mostly consists of the capital we deploy, is not entirely tantamount to it, but we try to make it fun. Once there's been, let me call it very dry, a liquidity event, once there's been an exit, when there's been some sort of a milestone in the life of a founder that also produces cash for his investors or her investors and their team, there are three things that I try to keep an eye on for the next few years. What does the company do under new management and new leadership? Does it immediately fall apart? Or is it still functioning? So when I see a logo of our ex-portfolio company now under new leadership and under new ownership, still gracing the outdoors advertisement units of Changi, it kind of brings a little bit of joy. And the second thing I keep an eye on is alumni of the company. Have they all run for the hills immediately after we cashed out? Have they stuck around for a few years? Have they stuck around, learned a bit more, and went on to start new companies? And then what happens to a founder? One of the big exits we've had in the recent years, he is sponsoring a school, writing a book, which I'm terrified of reading at some point of time. And I think also helping orphans off the streets. And I think teaching entrepreneurship in one of the local universities. Okay, so that's something.
Yeah.
So I don't think my identity would be necessarily tied around those things, but if that's the thing I can show for the 15 years of working in this trade in Southeast Asia, why not?
We always talk about a startup culture as this like incredibly hustle culture. Like no one even talks about joy at all. I want to know how each of you think about introducing this concept of joy in the ecosystems that you're in, whether it's through building the business or whether it's through working with someone that you really look up to or are inspired by. This concept of joy is such a rarely thrown about statement when we talk about startup culture here.
Oh, me.
Okay, yes, you.
On this one occasion, because concept of joy is so very inseparable from the concept of play.
Oh, play?
And what's best to play with than new toys? We are here as an industry to bring new technology to life.
I see.
And playing with new technology is what could be most joyful. The joy of playing with technology is, I think, one of the original sources of energy that propels this ecosystem forward. And I guess our role as ecosystem builders is not to completely extinguish this joy.
I think for most of us, when we start a company, we want to solve a problem. And a lot of our joy comes from seeing the problem being solved.
Yeah.
Whether or not, you know, for myself, I don't know if I can be the person that solves the problem that I want to solve. But I can say wholeheartedly that I care about the problem very deeply, right? And I think, you know, I have the maturity to really see this through to my best ability. And hence, to me, that is joy, right? I think when you talk about joy, sometimes it gets mixed up with having happiness, right? No one's asking you not to play, but to me, my first and foremost responsibility is to really do my role as a founder. It's the most important thing. And I don't need to be happy, but I need to make sure that I achieve what I need to do.
I think joy is in the journey, not just in the destination.
Oh, wow.
I don't.
Friends we made along the way.
Yeah,
As cliche as that sounds.
exactly. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing with support and excitement. If you don't even enjoy doing it, why are you doing it?
Just bouncing off of that, right? The concept of winning, is that enough to make it worth doing? Are you in it just to win? And has this perspective changed ever since you become a founder, a leader, operator in your field?
I think we might have different definition of winning, first of all. And also the reason I do what I do is because when my clients message me, it's like, this month I managed to draw a salary. Next month I managed to pay my childcare support. The month after I buy my mom in the house. This give me joy.
That's
Not
winning.
like,
Yeah,
that's winning. That makes me so much happier than I win a lottery. That's like shock, right? So yeah, I think we all have different definition of winning. What's your definition?
My definition of winning is when my name is mentioned in the same line as someone else doing really good work that is completely different from the work that I'm doing.
Well, mine is similar to yours. It's just that our customers are founders. And I know it sounds banal, but I mean, the unhappy founder whose things are not going well is a lot of work for me. So it kind of does make me happy when everything is going smoothly and up and to the right, provided the numbers are all true. So it all comes neatly together that we are sort of there not to win ourselves, but to enable other people to win. And our job is just not to lose.
Yeah.
And it does give you joy in the long run, eventually.
For me, winning is when people around me are winning as well. Be it like through empowerment, or when I unlock something for them, or like when they get inspired by this random thing that I talked about or like did. I've actually found myself tearing up a couple times when someone like texts me and like, hey Chloe, like thanks for this thing a while ago. This is actually what I ended up doing or like seeing differently. And I'm like, oh my god, I did that. And I think that like that feedback loop is what keeps me going, and that to me is winning.
Yeah. That's a true ecosystem like builder over there. I know we touched a bit about legacy just now, but I just want to wrap us up with this one big question, right? Which is, what is that one contribution that each of you would want to be remembered for, as big or as small as it could be?
I don't really want my name to be remembered, but more like what I produce. For example, my company, Superbench, I want it to be a tool that when people hear about it, like, oh, this is immediately elevating the experience. I want it to be this kind of invisible force that sits behind all the support businesses.
In terms of legacy, I think we all want the same thing. We want to help people. We want to, make people feel better about themselves, right? But for myself, I want to change the world. I want to change the industry that I am in, right? Healthcare. And to me, it's very important to build this workforce infrastructure for healthcare in Asia because it's lacking. But more importantly, if you look at a lot of founders, what we really, really want is to build the education, awareness, infrastructure, and also opportunities and access that other people may not have, right? So I think eventually legacy is not about our names to be remembered, but it's really how, at the end of the day, our work will speak for ourselves. Yeah.
Of course, I would love my firm to outlive me and to be a synonym for good venture investor in emerging markets in Southeast Asia specifically. But look, VC is a service business. As long as it's functioning well, not much of a legacy there. In VC trade, I think the legacy comes down to a few specific decisions one can make over the course of their career.
I think as you were all talking, I thought about, again, the ripple effect. Going back to my why, don't dream of changing the world at scale with like a big multinational corporation. I think about my wins as if I can create good ripple effects from people around me. And as long as people around me are winning, I think that is a legacy that I want to leave behind.
It's true. I think a huge part of shaping an ecosystem is ensuring that your work and your vision remains and evolves even after you've stepped away and even after you've gone through multiple iterations and generations of what you do. So I think my real impact is just beyond all of that. It's beyond evaluation, it's beyond press, beyond the different milestones. Thank you for your honest conversations and all of your opinions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.